Well, it sounds like AK gave Ole Miss a Dear John.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama, a live show today. Luke Robinson with the HSA Radio Network. That's me. And Jimmy Stein with Bama Online. That's him. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. You guys are the best. Thank you for being the first listen ever. We appreciate you guys. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And Jimmy, we're going to start off with the AK Deer commitment, but later on, we're going to talk about Alabama's new SEC schedule for the SEC slate that's been released. And I love it, except for one little thing. We'll talk about that. But AK Deer has maybe the worst cold open I've ever had.
I thought it was pretty good. I thought that was solid. I've seen a million Deer jokes about the AK Deer thing. That was solid. That was a different direction. I like it.
Well, okay, so AK Deer does commit to Alabama as expected, as we've been saying for months now. I mean, in fact, I think 2 months ago we said expect his commitment any minute. And it turns out it was several thousand minutes away from what we thought it would be. But that's okay. He's in the fold. And I'm going to tell you, the way he's talking, and again, when people commit, they say things. But the way he's talking, I don't foresee a flip in this guy's future.
I mean, you never can say never. I mean, I get what you're saying. He's very excited. There's kind of a commitment high. Maybe, we talk about visit highs on the show. There's a commitment high, I'm sure. But this is just such a new era. I'm exaggerating greatly when I'm talking about the dollar figure. But, hey, this is just the new world we're living in, where you commit to one school and recruiting in your mind is over. And then you get a DM 3 days later on your Twitter from another coach at another school that says, hey, we've put together $1 million for you to sign, $1 million. And I mean, that dollar figure doesn't really happen all the time in college football. But the point is, it's a new world. It's not even really cheating anymore. And this is the way I look at it. I'm thrilled AK Deer committed. I believe AK Deer is going to sign with Alabama in December. I really do. I believe everybody committed to Alabama is going to sign in December. But if someone flips, we to be shocked means you've ignored all that's happened in college football since 2021.
Already had a live mute, but that's okay. Jimmy, I don't even want to start off talking about a flip anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
it's silly.
There's no reason to expect it. There's no reason to anticipate it, but it's just hello 2024. I mean, those kind of offers happen.
And things could change on a dime. There's no doubt about it. But right now, it is awesome. And I'll tell you something else. I think it solidifies the fact that Alabama is kind of back in Mississippi. Look, even under Saban, and perhaps Mississippi wasn't super loaded, although I can remember names like A.J. Brown, a DK Metcalf, a Chris Jones, even a William Eccles, who we talked about earlier on the previous podcast this morning, that is a freshman All-American. I mean, there have been some dudes in Mississippi, and Alabama just, even with Nick Saban, the greatest recruiter of all time, in the greatest era of college football of all time for one particular program, it seemed like we never could get a foothold in Mississippi for whatever reason. Now, to go there and now get commitments out of Caleb Cunningham and get a commitment from AK Deer, that is huge. One thing that I thought was very interesting that AK Deer brought up was Dylan Johnson at Washington. He loved the way he was used last year. Dylan Johnson, of course, a Mississippi native, started out at Mississippi, and he transferred to Washington and was a big part of Washington's success last year. So I think that he was very excited about the fact that the way he was used, and the fact that there's a Mississippi connection and all these other things with this particular staff. So, a lot in there in his interview with On3.
Yeah, and I have not read that yet because all this happened very quickly and I have to deal with a lot of different things when this happened. So I've not read that quote that you just said just yet because, but I'll be working on AK Deer stuff today. But I've not seen that quote. But the reason I find it interesting, Luke, is not even having heard that quote, I posted just recently, very right after he committed. I posted, I find it coincidental even though I'm not making the comp because I don't even think it's a great comp. But I did post that, AK Deer is 6'2", 200. I hadn't even started his high school senior year. Dylan Johnson, DeBoer's running back at Washington, was 6'2", 217 in his final year at Washington. So they're extremely similarly sized, as AK Deer is clearly, like every other college running back, is going to add 10 to 15 pounds of muscle, once he gets to Alabama. So he'll end up virtually the same exact size as Dylan Johnson. So I don't love the comp. To be totally honest, it sounds homerific, but based on Dylan's production, but AK Deer is a better prospect than Dylan. I mean, AK is absolutely a better prospect. He can run better than Dylan Johnson. Similarly sized, I think AK runs better, and I think should he stay healthy in college, he's probably an even better NFL prospect. I'm not sure where Dylan went in the draft. I know he's in Carolina playing with Bryce, but I don't know where he went in the draft. I think maybe in the 5th round.
Dylan, I'll find the quote here on three right now. It said, one of the horses for DeBoer's Washington team a year ago was Dylan Johnson. Johnson is from Mississippi. He started his career at Mississippi State, and Deer is excited to be a part of a program at Alabama with history and to play for a coach that knows how to use him. He said, Coach DeBoer is an offensive guy. He's had some top running backs. Coach DeBoer is a man of honesty. He is a winner, and I know he will help me get where I want to go. The other thing Deer said, and again, these quotes attributed to On Three, Alabama is a factory at running back. They have a great history, and that is a big reason I want to go there. They develop people for the NFL, and that is my goal. And look, that's just awesome stuff. And look, AK Deer is the second-rated running back by most services in the country. Ironically, I think the first rated running back is it Harlem Berry that's committed to LSU? Is that
LSU,
right?
yeah, he's from Louisiana.
He's from Louisiana. So, I mean,
he was never really, to my knowledge, available. I think LSU put the clamp down on him real quick, which can happen with in-state players, But AK was Alabama's top target. Now, maybe Harlem Berry ranked higher, but that wasn't ever going to happen. But AK Deer was Alabama's top target, and I think you have to. Again, we'll be talking about out-of-state, in-state recruiting, apparently, because that's what they want to talk about over at Auburn. But, Turbo Rogers is a pretty highly ranked in-state back. You'd be crazy not to take AK Deer because you want the in-state guy. I mean, you got to take a player of AK Deer's caliber, no matter where he's from. And while AK Deer is out of state and won't count as an in-state player, he probably lives just as close to Tuscaloosa as Turbo Rogers does. I mean, Quitman, Mississippi is just 30 minutes south of Meridian. It's very close to Butler, Alabama. Quitman's not far away at all from Tuscaloosa.
No, and as we know from, Antonio McDyess coming from there. Jimmy, we are going to talk a little bit about Turbo Rogers, the effect this could have on him right after I tell everybody about FanDuel. And I said I was going to tell you about FanDuel, but I lied to you. I'm sorry. I don't lie often, but I did lie this time. I want to tell you about Ibotta, and because I love Ibotta, and IBOTTA. I use it all the time. I'm dead serious. I'm not kidding around. I went to Publix the other day, got dinner for the fam, got some drinks for myself, and I bought some things that I knew I wanted, but also that fell under the Ibotta purview so that I could get some cash back, and then later on I can buy some more stuff. And right now Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store, Google Play, and download the free Ibotta app and start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKEDONCollege. Trust me on this. I use it all the time. I'm not kidding with you. It's good at like even some convenience stores like Circle K, but at Publix, Walmart, Winn-Dixie, all these places you go right here in the South. Ibotta is a fantastic resource and a good way to make just a few extra dollars here in these troubling times. Want to remind everybody to go check out the Locked On College Football previews too, because these are awesome. College football is back, and the Locked On College Football podcast kicks off the action with a live season preview at 6 o'clock tonight. That's August 20th on the Locked On College 24/7 streaming YouTube channel. This 4-part series covers each of the 4 major conferences with discussions on which ACC, Big 10, Big 12, and SEC teams have the best shot at the college football playoffs. Locked On Bama's Jimmy Stein's there, so you need to go check them out. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm not messing around with that. Go check it out. Okay, so AK Deer has committed, and now Turbo Rogers still on the commitment list. But, it feels a lot like the Perry Thompson thing last year in a way that, any minute now he's going to decommit. And maybe he won't, though, ultimately. First of all, I can't wait. I'm sort of like the Alabama coaching staff. I just can't wait to see Turbo Rogers. I get to call his game against Vestavia on Friday night in Crampton Bowl. It's going to be Carver taking on Vestavia. It's a great first game because Vestavia and their coach very famously had a great tweet, a great quote that went all over the Twitterverse where he said, hey, look, they got dudes going to Alabama and Texas A&M and Florida and everywhere else. And we got a bunch of guys who are going to be Phi Gams at Alabama, and that's the truth. But Vestavia is a power. They play hard. What they lack in star power, they make up for in effort. There's no doubt about it. They got athletes. So it's going to be interesting to see how Carver uses him and how Turbo Rogers reacts, because last year Turbo Rogers was at IMG Academy where they got running back stacked like cordwood. So it's going to be interesting to see. I assume he's going to be the bell cow. And so I can't wait to see him in action and give a report back here. Hey, yeah, I'm all for Alabama going all in, or, hey, if he flips, he flips.
Yeah, what a show Sunday we're going to have here on the – because I can't wait. It's the number one thing. Can't wait to hear Luke's rundown of seeing Turbo in person, because here's a guy – this is simply what's happening, everybody. If you followed, Tim Watts at BOL has been very upfront about what's happening here. You have to remember Turbo committed to the last staff. This is a situation – it's not the Miles Johnson situation. It's not that. I'm not saying, hey, this is – we all know what happened with the decommitment of Miles Johnson, who later committed to Florida. But it's similar-ish in the sense that Turbo Rogers committed to the last staff. The new staff, their evaluation of Turbo comes from his junior season at IMG, and it's hard to find that film. There's not much. He didn't play a ton at IMG for any number of reasons, but like Luke said, they've got a bunch of backs, and they're all these highly recruited guys, and there's just not a lot of tape out there. They need to see more of Turbo Rogers, who did not, by the way, I don't believe he was in Alabama's camp this summer either. So they need to see Turbo, and that will happen this fall. And I think it's up in the air as to if Alabama's going to push for him or not. It's going to be based on their senior season evaluation. He won't be the only guy that they're evaluating either. There's a ton of players out there, actually, that they're going to be taking a close look at. Turbo's one of them. But, hey, we'll get the first evaluation from Luke here on Sunday. And yeah, high school football starts up there. I'm going to go to a game Thursday night. Luke's calling that game Friday. The game in Dublin Saturday morning with ESPN and Nick Saban on site. It's really here. I'm gonna wake up Thursday morning, day after tomorrow, and just on air that it finally got. Because as far as I'm concerned, Thursday is the start of the new football season, because I'll be going to a high school game that counts, and Luke will be calling one the next day, and then there's game day in college football on Saturday.
What game are you going to?
Yeah, I'm going to Fairhope Spanish Fort. It doesn't have necessarily a prospect pool there. It's just really local to where I am right now. I got other friends that are going to be there at the game. So this is one of the rare high school games where I'm not actually on a prospect prowl. Although that said, Fairhope and Spanish Fort could both have young kids that I discover while I'm there. These are two programs that do produce SEC type players, especially Spanish Fort. So we'll see. Spanish Fort does have a good outside linebacker that's committed to Miami, actually. Good player. But anyway, Cole McConaughey is his name. Fairhope Spanish Fort for me, but I'm looking forward to watching high school highlights from games all over Alabama all weekend long, and really anxious to hear your review of Turbo on our Sunday show.
Yeah, and I want to see the other dudes on that team. They do have somebody else committed to A&M. I think they do have somebody else. I think it's committed to Florida, but I hadn't really taken a deep dive into the research on it just yet, but I will, and I look
Yeah,
forward
the
to that.
Stavia guy must have forgot about his player that was committed to Tennessee that was a 5-star by some services last year.
Yeah, Jordan Ross, right?
Yeah, Jordan Ross. Yeah, he's got a bunch of Phi Gams and Phi Kappa Phis, and that guy, so they're no stranger to SEC prospects at Vestavia. But I think, but his poor mouthing was an excellent form. He was in midseason form.
Yeah, it was very good coach speak, and coach speak yet also quotable. That's a very rare combo. But going back to this just for a second, what this does, AK Deer's commitment, apparently on On3's updated rankings, I'm looking at it right here, it still has Alabama as the number 2 class. It should be noted, Alabama's only got 21 commitments, Ohio State at number 1, Bama just, a tick behind. And they have 24 commitments. LSU also with 24 at number 3, Georgia at number 4 with 22 commitments, Tennessee at number 5 with 23 commitments, and Auburn at 6 with 22. Here's one that really is surprising, though. Oregon is number 7 with only 15 commitments. So Oregon could really shoot up the charts here a little bit later on. But I think, what could happen, Alabama could lose Turbo's commitment. They could. And it doesn't sound like, though, even though there was some hints about this from some national guys, it doesn't sound like reading the Auburn tea leaves, they're necessarily going in all they're going to wait and see on Turbo too. So they want to see what's up there. But if Turbo were to decommit, I still think Alabama would be the 2 class, and then no telling who they get in on. I think that's going to be
On3 doesn't rank. On3 doesn't rank Turbo as high. Now he is a top 300 player, but On3 has Turbo lower than the other sites.
Gotcha. Now, what's going to be interesting, and this is some homework for you more than anybody, since you're at On3, is to find out who Alabama's other targets are, because right now it seems to be shrouded in mystery. After AK Deer, it's like sort of cloudy. Now, of course, there's Derek Smith, but he's already committed. I'm talking about guys that Alabama's really pushing for, and that has a great shot at,
I think Derek Smith is a good name, though, to bring up. Alabama's not stopped recruiting him. I think they're continuing to recruit him, and I don't rule out Derek Smith ending up back at Alabama. I don't rule that out. I'm also not betting on it, but you can't. Alabama is continuing to recruit Derek Smith and continuing to recruit other players that are committed to other places. But I always said all along that Alabama would end this with right around 25 guys. And I think AK make 23, 24?
No, AK makes 21.
21, okay. I think they'll end up at 25, but some of these guys are going to be senior season guys that just blow up their senior year. A couple of them could be 3-star types that the fans kind of gloss over, but the staff gets excited about. Maybe it's somebody they saw in camp this summer that they're like, we want to see in games, and they love what they see in games, and the kid's a 3-star, but hey, the beauty's in the eye of the beholder when it comes to that stuff. But I do think they'll end up with, I've said 25 all along. I'm sticking with 25. I know that's 4 more, and I can't name those 4, but and I don't rule out them keeping Turbo. I mean, it won't surprise me in the least. I think Gillespie likes him. Obviously, even though I said he committed to the last staff, the running back coach on the last staff was Robert Gillespie. Yeah. So I think he likes Turbo. I just think the offensive coordinator and the head coach need to see him.
Shout out. We're doing this live, by the way. Shout out to Marcus Cartrell, who said Ty Jackson. I don't know how that slipped my mind. I don't know.
That's a great call, Marcus. Yeah, Alabama's recruiting Ty Jackson very hard, and I would even say the loss of Jaden Harmon makes Alabama slightly more likely. It's just going to be hard to get Ty Jackson out of Florida. Just think of all the programs. If Ty Jackson's driving to Tuscaloosa, how many programs is he driving past that are throwing bags of NIL money in the car? I mean, I'm just saying Ty's going to be difficult to sign, but Alabama's very much in the thick of it for him, and he is a fantastic prospect. On3 ranks him, I think, the number 1 inside linebacker in the country.
And, of course, there's Justice Terry in there, but it's sort of the same situation.
Yeah, I think it's hard to sign.
It is not optimistic. It is hopeful, if you're going by like a meteorologist way to put this. But
and he puts out signals that Alabama's really in this. I mean, and I do think Alabama's really in this, but some of that could be building drum. I mean, I'd predict that Justice Terry will sign with Georgia, but there's smoke signals there. It's certainly something to monitor. And again, other positions. I know here's a kid we've never even mentioned before. There's a wide receiver from Baldwin County High School. What's in Bama, Alabama? T.I. Mims.
Yeah.
One of these 3 stars talking about that I think he's either committed to Ole Miss or leaning to Ole Miss.
I think he's committed. I believe he is.
He tweeted the other day he's going to an Alabama game, the Western Kentucky game. And again, that's the type of guy I'm talking about, that Alabama's probably going to watch that guy this fall, and he can run. You know, he's similar to Latsier Brooks. I mean, if you watch T.I. Mims, you're going to think of Brooks. But anyway, that's just a name and an example of, hey, I know that me and Luke can't spit out these next 4 guys that'll make 25, but Alabama's continuing to recruit and cast a broad net. And let's see what happens these senior seasons. Senior season blowups in high school are no different than senior season blowups in college.
Right.
Where was Jaden Daniels on draft boards 365 days ago?
It's interesting you say that, because
the
Ole Miss LSU game was on, I think, like ESPN's top 25 games from last year. And the announcer said, boy, he's not very high on draft boards right now, but he should be. And it was kind of prophetic. But, Jimmy, everybody needs to hang with us, because we're going to talk about the SEC basketball slate that was just released for Alabama. The dates are set. And, man, there's a bunch to love about this schedule, and one teeny tiny thing I hate. But now I'm going to tell you about FanDuel. I teased it last time. I'm going to do it for real this time. You've heard us talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet 5 smacks. That's $5, and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. And I've used this last year. It was a ton of fun. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every single regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. That's a lot of games, bruh. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time, which is exactly what I did. So, yes, I would definitely do this if I were you. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook, because FanDuel, as always, is awesome. So the basketball slate has been released. And one thing I think Alabama fans get so upset about, and we should, it seems like a lot of our big games aren't on weekends. Well, at home. Well, now, I mean, it feels like every big game is at home on a weekend. I mean, listen to these are the Saturday slates. Here's another thing. I said there's only one thing I dislike. I really kind of dislike the whole schedule. If you're during the week, like not on a Saturday, the whole schedule is, okay, like for instance, Alabama, January 7th or 8th is at South Carolina. January 14th or 15th, Alabama plays Ole Miss at home. I mean, I'm not a fan of that necessarily, but I mean, just commit to a day. I mean, why is that such a big deal? But
I guess there's some sort of flex scheduling based on who's,
I understand. I get the flex schedule. I get all that. But if, the other thing that basketball's done that I've always hated is they put the TV schedule out incredibly early. Yeah. And I'm like, sometimes you're left with a bunch of bunk at the end of the year on national television. They should do it more like football, like give them a couple of weeks to figure it out. But anyway, here's the Saturday home slate for Alabama. I'm going to try and just do the weekend games. Oklahoma that's the opener, January 4th. Then January 25th is LSU. February 1, Georgia. February 15th is Auburn at home. That will be a nice big one. Kentucky at home, February 22nd. That's a week after the Auburn game. That's a big deal. Then Florida at home. That's also on the week. Well, I said all these games are midweek and at home, but that's not necessarily true. But Auburn and Kentucky being at home, and I think the Oklahoma game opening up at home is huge. Now going to Texas during a midweek game, I like that. Going to Tennessee on a Saturday, not a huge fan. But here's the one thing I really do hate. We finish up March 1st at Tennessee. Then we have Florida at home either March 4th or March 5th. Then at Auburn for the final SEC game. That is what I hate. I hate that. And I'm going to tell you
So
something right now.
I didn't even, wow. At Auburn
The
to
last game.
finish the season. And think about this. Could Alabama be needing that win to win the SEC? Very, very
Or be a
possible.
1 seed or whatever. I mean, I'm telling
tough.
you right now.
Shout out to Auburn by acknowledging how tough that is. That's tough.
No, we're giving Auburn a total shout out. I have no problem saying that. That place, seats about 9,000 people. They'll all be there, and it'll be packed to the gills. And they'll be. I don't care if Auburn has a losing record, which they won't.
9,000. There'll be 11,000 there.
That place will be raucous. And I mean, just as Coleman would be if it were vice versa, But I just hate ending with your arch rival when. It seems like we never ever do that. So
Tennessee's a tough penultimate.
That's what I'm talking about. Listen, you finish 2 of your biggest games on the road are in essentially the last 8 days of the schedule. So that really could affect seeding not only for the SEC tournament but seeding for the NCAA tournament. Now, I'm not trying to run scared. I'm not sure. Alabama's got an incredibly tough schedule anyway. I'm just saying, I guess in a perfect world, at Tennessee and at Auburn would have been spread out a little more, and I probably wouldn't have finished up at Auburn because I'm telling you right now, if Nate Oates wins that game,
wow,
then we need to build the statue. Forget what else he does the rest of the year because nobody's going to go and win that game easily. I'm telling you. So I just found that a little interesting.
Oh, it's extremely interesting and very tough and a heck of a rivalry. And, one thing I like that's pretty cool, I'm not going to root for Auburn's success, of course, but I think it magnifies the importance of basketball in the state, which me and you are big proponents of. It's a good thing for basketball in Alabama that Alabama and Auburn are both really good at the same time. That's fantastic for it just increases interest. Having one of the nation's great games of the day being in Auburn or in Tuscaloosa between those two is a really good thing for college basketball. So good. I mean, it's good in the sense that, wow, what a huge game that's going to be. It's bad in the sense that it's going to be very difficult to win, just like I would be telling the Auburn fans about playing Tuscaloosa. Good luck winning that game. That's going to be tough for you to win.
I do like how one of our commenters said, here comes Luke's anxiety. And that is true. And I spell anxiety, capital A, capital U, and then Nxiety. Yes. Because I grew up too close to Auburn. You people don't know what I've had to deal with my whole life. Anyway, you don't know the road I've been down. Okay, so that's going to do it for this podcast. Thank you guys for joining us. Sort of a impromptu live deal here, and we appreciate you. You're the best, and we want you to go check out Locked On College Football. Go check out that Locked On College Football preview tonight. You can get it on the 24/7 live stream on Locked On College Football. So until next time, roll tide, everybody.
Instead of roll tide, I'll say AK Deer.